Hello and a very warm welcome to the brand new edition of Policy Watch. I'm Kriti Mishra. Government plans to come out with an updated version of the national water policy with key changes in water governance structure and regulatory framework. Plans are also afoot to set up a National Bureau of Water Use Efficiency. Building consensus among the states within the constitutional framework is a precondition for making these changes. National water policy was formulated to govern the planning and development of water resources and their optimum utilization. The first national water policy was adopted in September 1987. It was reviewed and updated in 2002 and later in 2012. And to get deeper insights on the topic, I'm joined by Mr. Avinash Mishra, advisor, Niti Aayog, Mr. Uttam Kumar Sinha, expert on water resources, and T. Rajeshwari, additional secretary, Ministry of Water Resources. Welcome to Rajya Sabha Television, all of you. Mr. Mishra, let me come to you first. Niti Aayog has said that India is facing its first water crisis and the demand for potable water may outstrip supply by the year 2030 if steps are not taken. Importance of an updated water policy according to you?
Yeah, actually, you see, as you rightly said, the water policy was there in 2012 and now 7 years down the line, there is a lot of changes those are required in water policy. And what I feel, let there be a amended policy maybe in 2019 end or could be in 2020, where actually the prioritization of the water usage should be defined. Actually in the policy it was laid down that the agriculture this will be there, but it was not in the form of the policy parameter in terms of the uses. So that is required. Then we are losing the spring sets. So there is no nothing has been covered for a spring set. Revitalization of rivers. This is again going to be a big change that many of our rivers and the rivulets they are drying up. So they are also required to be revived. Some policy parameters need to be developed as those rivers are running from not in one single state but multiple states. So that is also required. Except this, there is a lot of technological innovations. Technological innovations with the sensors, with the geographic information system and satellite imagery, we must be able to really modulate the water where it is flowing, what quantum of water is flowing, so that required to be done. Also we need to require to go back from basin to sub basin to watershed and down up to the village water budgeting level. The Niti Aayog has sensitized in its composite water management index rightly that today the water uses are so high and they are so inefficient that if it continues in the manner, the day is not far while we will not have the water. You see, water which we are using in irrigation sector, it is giving an efficiency of 30 to 38%. The water which is used for drinking water supply and sanitation in urban area, the efficiency means losses we are making around 40 to 45%. In the rural area, majority of the rural area do not have the water. The ministry is now trying to upscale from 18% piped water supply to further up, and wherever the water is provided, it is 40 litre per capita per day with 100 meter lead distance and all these. So that way we cannot say that we are comfortable with water. The quantum of water is not less in this country, but management of water is required. So the next agenda should be to manage the water properly. In irrigation sector, command area development has not been done. Some 21 million hectare of land which has been created to be irrigation, but the irrigation is not reaching to the farmers because the small channels have not been constructed. Command area development has not been taken up. So these are all the major issues which I need should be addressed in the forthcoming national water policy.
Mr. Mishra, you are making a very important point on water management, and let me take that to you, madam. A unified Ministry of Jal Shakti was launched in May 2019 as an immediate response to escalating water crisis in India. The government also talks about Nal Se Jal to provide piped water supply to every household by the year 2024. But how do we bring about a paradigm shift to make perceptible changes in water management system in our country?
Yeah, see, now we are faced with numerous challenges in the form of adverse effects of climate change, and also regarding like we have this we see extreme events, rainfall events, and then we have water scarcity during the summer months, and So therefore, this needs all focused attention on demand side management, and also, and as I rightly Mr. Mishra has pointed out, now we are also faced with serious challenges of drying up of rivers, water quality, river pollution. So all these needs to be addressed by having specific recommendations in the water policy. Then also now the focus now is more on demand side management. Demand side management with we are now focusing on water use efficiency by changing the cropping pattern as per the agroclimatic zones, and then also now we have to focus now more on the participatory groundwater management.
Yes.
That would to ensure sustainability and quality of water. So these are the issues now we are looking at afresh, and also having specific policy recommendations on these issues, so that we are ready to face the future challenges of water.
So we have to see to the solutions to foresee and actually mitigate the challenges
Yes.
of water in the near future. But coming to you, Mr. Sinha, Jal Shakti Minister said that hydrological boundaries and not political and administrative boundaries must become a part of water governance in India. How do you read Jal Shakti Minister's statement?
I think these are two very important statements that he has made about defining what a hydrological boundary and what an administrative boundary is. Obviously, we have to look at water issues beyond administrative thinking. Obviously, it encompasses a lot of issues which he has probably looked at already. But the second statement which he says is about water management, far more important than just this available water that we have, is again a significant aspect of the new water policy that might be brought forth in the near time. Look, we've had a history of water policies. The last 30 years, we've seen 3 water policies coming up. In fact, we were the early initiator of the water policy in 1987. In fact, no other developing country I can recall had a national water policy in 1987. Probably Mexico would be the only country I can recall which had a national water policy. So we've had this 30 years of experience behind us, which I think will be very important when we look at the new water policy in the next coming few years. We have a history behind us. We have to look at some of the nitty-gritties of those policies, where the loopholes were, where the fallacies were, where the strength were. I think we need to deeply study those water policies. Many of the things that the minister is talking about, and we are actually in the middle of a water crisis.
That's right.
If you look at the Niti Aayog's report last year, it was quite alarming alarming in the sense it was quite realistic what it portrayed, and I think we'll have to put our heads together, and policy formulation has to be based on some of the recommendation that the policy that Niti Aayog said. And I think there are 2 elements of what the new water policy should be. I think one would be to really look at the 30 years of our policy making exercise on the water policies. We have to now redefine what we mean by an integrated water resource management. It was a very catchy phrase that we picked up in the 80s and the 90s, but in our context now, given what the Niti Aayog has said last year, we need to redefine, rethink and recalibrate what integrated water resource management is all about. We'll have to also reflect deeply into basin planning and the sub-basin planning. We've again talked about basin planning in 1987, in 2002 as well. But I think we need to re-look at those things, the nitty-gritty of it, and implement those things. That's going to be a very important thing about our water policies. You know, the languages used in our water policy earlier were languages of, visionary rather than actually implementable. And we now have to think about how these elements can be really implemented. You know, we have to get down to the specifics and the measurables and the attainables of the water issues, you know, and we need to have therefore a roadmap and an implementation map itself.
Implementation map along with the realistic targets.
Yes.
But there's another important concern, Mr. Mishra, that agriculture sector is a water guzzling sector. How do we recalibrate this sector in the face of the imminent water crisis?
Actually, the essential thing is this: we should see as per the agroclimatic zone how the water is available to that particular zone, and then what cropping pattern should come up over there. For instance, paddy in the Punjab, I feel it is not as per the agroclimatic zone in the water availability. Similarly, sugarcane, growing of sugarcane in Maharashtra, which is consuming some 80% of the irrigation water requirement in Maharashtra and depriving rest of the population. So, actually these things need to be seen. So, now the thing is required, there should be a shift, and there should be a shift from freebies, means the water is being freed, there is no charges for water, there is no charges for power. Now, if we come for the water pricing, then you see there are the two sorts of pricing. One pricing is of resource, another pricing is the system which really conveys the water. For instance, there is if I am drawing the water from the ground, then the groundwater, I think that it is my own water, but certainly it is the common pool resource. So, I should pay for resource, and then if the communication system, again transmission distribution system has been let down by the state government or by the government, by the public sector, then that system. So, the pricing mechanism need to be really recalibrated, and this should be there. Volumetric supply of water should be there, means all these concerns very much, these are all very much required. And now actually the technology which is already available globally, that should be implemented. We are still following the age old irrigation practice, 700 years back, constructed a dam, then just conveying the water through open canal, and many stretches it is even unlined. So, it is creating the water logging, it is not transferring that real quantum of water, and it is mostly uneconomical, and water hazards are being created. So, we need to really shift from that to the micro irrigation, to the system where even a drop of water is accountable.
And
so
look at the economic implications very minutely.
Yes, yes.
Coming to you, madam, the minister also talked about setting up a new organization or a new body. What would be the functions of National Bureau on Water Use Efficiency?
Yeah, actually we are looking at it because it is still because basically we first of all we have to evolve a mechanism for having an efficiency bar, especially in the domestic and industrial sectors. So, this proposed agency would mainly be looking at these issues. Now, as far as what was mentioned about the hydrological boundary, let me tell you that now see this is what we are looking at, a paradigm shift in the management of water, because we now have to look at the hydrological unit as a river basin or a sub basin instead of an administrative or a political boundary. Now, in this regard, I would like to inform that we are working on a river basin management bill, which envisages setting up of river basin authorities, and this would be managed by a two-tier structure. That means we have a governing council and an executive board. So, the governing council would mainly be executing a river basin management plan. So, the governing council actually this provides actually for this, if you have to have an hydrological unit as a river basin, this requires consensus at the basin level between the basin states within the constitutional framework. Now, the basin authorities, now this is the first time that you would be having a consensus building mechanism at the political level in the river basin. So, this would ensure that many of the issues that could be thrashed out at the basin level itself instead of coming to the center, because earlier we used to have, if there are any issues, they used to send it to the center and we used to forward it to a tribunal, and then we used to have a dispute tribunal and so on and so forth. But this, we hope that this would ensure that many of the disputes or consensus would be at the evolved at the basin level itself. And this river basin management plan again takes care of the integrated river basin management, integrated water management. For integrated water management, it is because what we are foreseeing is that not only integrate the water resources with other resources like land, looking at environmental issues and quality issues, and it's basically, and apart from that also integrating all the water, that means the groundwater, the surface water, and having it, you have policy and planning for the entire water resource that is available within the basin. So, this is what we are looking at.
Mr. Sinha, Rajeshwari ji is talking about grand plans of the centre, but water specifically is a state subject. We've seen differences between the states on this issue, and the stalemate has continued.
Yeah.
How do we get all the states on board?
Well, I think it's going to be a big challenge when we think about a national water policy of the scale and the vision in which we are talking about. Of course, getting on board the states are going to be a very important element of that. In the earlier national water policies as well, the state water policies were also fused into it. It's not that the state water policies was left aside. So they were always an integral part of a larger evolving national water policy. And in this case as well, they will be very much part of the national water policy itself. The entire debate about federalism in India, in a very consultative and a cooperative approach, where there's a win-win sort of a matrix that develops between the center and the state, will be quite clearly highlighted by the water issues itself. Because it's a very emotive issue, it's a political issue and a highly divisive issue. So I think it's going to be tested, the entire federal structure will be tested with the issue of water. But I think if the process is consultative, if the process is cooperative, I think there is much traction that will evolve in the future. Constitutionally, to place water as a state subject is quite fine, but the center can also intervene as it has done in many disputes, interstate disputes. So there is always a role of the center here.
Yes.
But I think the process has to be dialogue driven. It has to be taking care of certain sensitivity of the states as well, and not be imposed upon or not been shown a certain way in which it is seemed to be pushing a policy through the throat of the states.
But talking about the participation of states, Mr. Mishra, we've recently seen the water policies of states like Uttarakhand and Maharashtra. How do we adopt a cohesive approach?
No, actually, what has been being actually promoted or the bill is under drafting, that is River Basin Management Bill. So in that particular basin, as the governing body will be there, the 1, 2, all the whichever number of states, they will be represented. They will be sitting, they will be deciding the water allocation, the water priority, and then accordingly it will be implemented. So this will be a unified system, because you see, the water, because a basin, if it's a deficient basin, then all has to face the same music. The people sitting in the West Bengal and Odisha, which is having a ample quantum of water, for that matter Bihar, cannot compare the water uses than what the people sitting there in Rajasthan. So they have to really plan according to their basin. So these things will be sorted out after we really approach from basin to sub basin, and then watershed, and then micro watershed to a village level. So that is the ideal situation which I think we will like to go, and that is also being done in case of Australia, Murray-Darling Basin. Actually this is the way they are managing the water. At one point of time, there also the same sort of water crisis, the same sort of water problems, but this all could be addressed because of the basin management. So this approach which we really opted 70 years down the line after the freedom should have been done long before.
Yes, but that takes me to another important aspect, which is interlinking of rivers, to transfer water from surplus basins
to
deficit
deficient
basins. Ma'am, how distant or close is this dream?
Yeah, actually we have a national perspective plan which envisages transferring of water from the surplus basin to the deficit basin. So as you are aware, we are many projects have been almost finalized. The only thing is that MOU has been, DPRs have been made, and MOU has been sent to some states. So we are in the process of negotiating, consensus building within the state in respect of sharing of waters and all. This is certainly in the pipeline, and we hope to get through, resolve many of the issues between the states and come through.
Which is a very important aspect. But Mr. Sinha, what could be the roadmap ahead for replenishing groundwater aquifers?
I think we forgot about the groundwater for a long time, and now I think we have to pay adequate attention to it. I think one of the first things to know about our groundwater is how much do we really have, and we haven't really mapped that effectively, and I think we are in the process of mapping our groundwater resource to see how much really do we have, and thereon then we can think about groundwater policies, which is quite important in our larger water policy approach. We need to have a better understanding of our groundwater situation, which begins with knowing what the amount we have, and I think that once it is mapped, then we can think about solid concrete policies which can maintain the groundwater level, help replenish the groundwater, which is also very important. Remember, we use 85 to 90% of the groundwater for irrigation. And that is an important link of water to agriculture and food. And I think that is also very critically important. Many of the cities, as the Niti Aayog said last year, would be deficient in groundwater by 2020. I mean, we're just so close. But of course, cities have other ways to get water itself. The surface water are equally important.
But how sustainable is that?
Well, I think we have to make it sustainable. I think sustainable is the key word now in the water management issue. I mean, sustainable is the word now in our entire developmental process, anywhere around the world. And we have to also think about resilience. I mean, apart from sustainability, we have to think about how resilient our sectors can be to water shortages or to excessive water, for example, because of the climate change. So I think these are new words, new concepts which are defining our thinking, and that will also define our water policy. Sustainability, sustenance and resilience.
Mr. Mishra, any specific plan for restoration of water bodies?
You see, the water bodies, those are very essential. You see, any civilization, it has grown up either on the banks of the river or on the closer to the water bodies. In case of Indian subcontinent, we could develop the big water bodies. In our ancient time, if you recall, there used to be 3 tanks in each village. They were catering, one for drinking purpose, another for the daily needs something, and another for the irrigation. So these 3 type of tank model was there, but of late these tanks have been actually dumped, and many garbage has been there, or it has been encroached. There is a 4th mine irrigation census report which came some 6-7 years back, that has said that around 6 lakh water bodies are there in the country. Thereafter, 5th mine irrigation census report came, that was saying 5 lakh water bodies was there. So we lost 1 lakh water bodies.
Yes.
So these 1 lakh water bodies, where it has gone? It has been encroached by the people, and with the advent of the piped water supply, the people felt as if these are not needed. However, they were the groundwater recharging structures. So it's high time while we should really revive, regenerate and renovate those water bodies. They are very essential. They are rather the nerve system of the whole total water management. Actually, so we have lost the recharging zone. The moment we lost the recharging zone in terms of the these tanks, the water depletion of the groundwater depletion enhanced. The total quantum of water what we have got for use, which is around 437 BCM. This is in various places, like in these 21 cities which has been mentioned in the Niti Aayog report. We are extracting the more groundwater than what it got recharged, replenished in a year with the rainfall. So this is causing the over exploitation. For instance, in Delhi, it is 130%, means 100% we are say the recharging is taking place, and 130% we are drying. So every year we are drying 30% more what it get recharged. So this is the position, and we need to really revive those water bodies, tanks, bawdis and takas. All these things are required.
So revival of water bodies is of paramount importance.
Is a very essential, very essential.
Madam, I'll give you the last word on the show. When do we see this updated national water policy in the public domain?
Yes, actually we have actually the water policy involves, I mean, framing an updated policy involves several steps. In the first instance, we have set up an a drafting committee where we involve various water resource experts and experts in the field of agriculture, environment and other related issues, and we sit out to discuss. So, and then after which it will be, there has to be a stakeholder consultation also, not with all the state government consultations are also involved before we finalize the water policy. So we hope to come up as quickly as possible, because this is the need of the hour, because as already been discussed, many issues have come up, especially the climate change and other issues which has to be incorporated, taking on and make specific policy recommendations. So we will be coming out as quickly as possible. We hope to come out.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this discussion on this important issue and topic. So there is a need to update the national water policy in the light of new challenges, especially the adverse effects of climate change. Well, that's all we had for you in this edition of Policy Watch. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to Rajya Sabha Television.